Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, August 12, 2021, and we're here for a work session. As always, we're going to start with the pledge. And Frank, can you please take the lead?
I would love to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Frank. We have a few announcements today. A reminder that today is the third Alive on 25 event. It takes place this evening from 5 to 9:30, and I encourage everyone to come out and enjoy the food, the drinks, the live music. And now we have a new kids zone, and there's an outdoor movie. I look forward to it, and I hope to see you there today. Next, anyone 12 years of age and older who has not received the COVID-19 vaccine who wishes to be vaccinated, we are encouraging you to attend the senior center today from 10 to 3 p.m. and also again tomorrow. The town of Riverhead, along with the Long Island Farm Bureau and the North Fork Apostle, work together to jointly sponsor a 2-day vaccine beginning today and again concluding tomorrow. You do not need an identification. You don't need medical insurance. It's free. And again, we're trying to lower the rate here in Riverhead. And just as of yesterday, the Guatemalan consulate has also joined in on this effort. So this is an effort to reach out to the community, especially the groups that are under-vaccinated, in an effort to lower the COVID-19 infectious rate. And today we are anticipating high temperatures, and we have opened the senior center as a cooling center, and it'll be open until 5:30 p.m. So we'll have two events going on there. We'll have the vaccination along with the cooling center. And we have great news, Riverhead. I am pleased to announce that the town of Riverhead has reached an agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office that will allow demolition of all the 3 buildings that we purchased to open up the riverfront to our new town square. This is an important step in the process, and I can't wait to see those buildings come down and to see Main Street visually open to our beautiful asset, the Peconic Riverfront. Upon reviewing a substantive amount of documentation compiled by the Community Development, SHPO agreed that there is no prudent or feasible alternative unless these buildings are demolished. The town of Riverhead is beyond excited to see this transformative project, and now we can commence. And we thank SHPO and Senator Martinez, who I have met prior to their visit, and they were very supportive. I saw her Sunday at an event, and she's excited. Actually, she comes out here a lot to Riverhead. Okay, so moving forward, we're going to go on to our first discussion item. And I just want to make a note that CDA Director Dawn Thomas is out of town for her son's wedding, and we're going to be discussing the allocation of CBGB monies at our next work session on August 19th. Okay, so she should be here, and she has agreed to be here. All right, moving forward on to our first discussion item, which is to further discuss matters surrounding an update on the adoption of pet legislation. Councilman Ken Rothwell and Tim Hubbard are co-liaison of the co-revision, and it falls right within their realm. But Councilman, before you start your discussion, I would like to make a statement, please.
Sure.
Last week, a discussion item on puppy mills was discussed. Unfortunately, an email that was sent to me opposing the legislation, I sent it to the entire board so the board could be kept abreast of anything, and I asked everyone to review the state legislation along with ensuring that the town attorney also review the legislation. This is what we are charged to do, to make legislation and make prudent legislation, not on an ad hoc basis. Unfortunately, that email that I sent, a member of the board sent it out, including the media, and it became a show on Facebook. I don't read Facebook comments, and I refuse to become part of that. I do have my own personal page, and I have a very important job, and I refuse to become a keyboard warrior. Let it be known, I have an 11-year-old golden retriever who we purchased from a licensed pet store that was in existence for over 50 years, and it was not a puppy mill. In addition, we raise puppies for companions, and these dogs eventually become companions for the visually impaired, veterans, and children. I was disturbed by those attempting to put fear in people and attempting to slander me personally as supporting puppy mills. This should not be tolerated in our community. It is obviously silly political season, and we need to ensure that we work for our taxpayers, not for one's personal gain. Lastly, it is important we ensure mom and pop stores and commercial establishments who follow the agricultural state laws, along with our farmers, do not become political and collateral damage in this effort. Again, an open discussion and working on the appropriate legislation is the foundation of what good governance should be based on, and that's why we're here today, and that's why we're addressing this. Councilman?
Thank you very much, Supervisor.
Before we begin, if I could just say, this is a topic that people are very passionate about, and this is a topic that crosses all party lines. To call this political is insulting to the people that stood up. This was not a political thing, and we're here to do the people's work, and let's do it.
Okay, Councilman?
Again, if I can begin.
Yes, sure.
So we did have a discussion about this in a prior work session, and I thought this is an incredible topic and something that we can lead in the state by example. There was the absence of two of our council members, and so I thought it would be good to continue this discussion in their presence. I'm sorry that Councilman Hubbard couldn't make it here today, but since our last work session, I have talked to him extensively about this. And so I am sorry, and I hope that he recovers and feels better soon, so all the best wishes to him. But I do want to know that prior to our first work session, I did not have a chance to discuss with either one of the other council members, and it was something which we brought up. And since then, we have all been following up, I think, as an entire board, speaking to each other about it and just learning our views. But the purpose of the legislation is the intent of the town of Riverhead to promote animal welfare and encourage best practices in the breeding and purchasing of dogs and cats offered for retail sale in the town of Riverhead. So the goal of this is to create a certificate of source. Okay, and so that we want to know when someone purchases an animal, where specifically the animal is coming from. And so when we enact legislation like this, it does not, one of the public concerns and some of the contacts and phone calls that I got following our first work session was, will I be able to get the dog that I want, and I don't want the town to tell me what I can or can't have. You can have the dog that you desire if it's a purebred. As I mentioned in the last work session, I personally had a purebred Dalmatian as a firefighter. It was just like, it was my dream, and he was my best friend for 12 years, and he was a family member. And when we got him, we went to a purebred breeder. He was licensed, operated, maintained. It was in New Jersey. We went to his home, and we got to see, the conditions and meet the parents, and it was a wonderful experience. And we had to continue to visit him until he was old enough for us to be able to take him home. And that's what this is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be that you get the animal that you love, and that you know that it came from a safe and nurturing environment. Puppy mills are the total opposite. And so they're nothing more than operations that specifically are designed to breed puppies. And what we don't see is when the puppies are in the stores, and is we don't see the conditions of the location where they came from, specifically the parents, the mother, father. They're kept in these horrible cages, and once the puppies are born, they're removed and they're taken and sold for retail. And so a certificate of source is going to say where particularly this animal was bred and where it came from, the certificate of origin and source. It's not an attempt to hurt any type of pet retail stores. Petco, for example, and PetSmart do not sell puppies. They do not sell kittens. And they are very, very successful businesses. And so, we ourselves, my family has always purchased, many supplies from local, pet stores. So it's not an attempt to in any way discourage pet stores. We want them to succeed. And they can also, doesn't prevent necessarily a pet store from ever having any puppies or kittens and so forth to be sold within a store. They can team up, and that's what the goal that we're looking for is they can team up with animal shelters, nonprofit organizations. So, for example, we can have a store in our town. If the local animal shelter is full, they can have a dog from the local animal shelter and bring it into their facility. And someone can go into a pet store and adopt, the animal. But the animal is going to be known to come from, the dog will come from an animal shelter or a nonprofit organization. And so, to be clear, when you go into an animal shelter, and I can tell you personally, we just adopted, not too long ago, another kitten, and it came from the animal shelter, and my wife was excited, and she went down with my two boys to the shelter, and they adopted a kitten, but there was a whole application and a process they go through, and I actually, because I was not present, they could not take the kitten home immediately. I had to get interviewed myself. The animal shelter wanted to make sure that I was also on board and that I wanted this kitten and to know that it was going to go home to a safe environment. And so they concluded an entire background check. And so that's a key component. Also, within this legislation, by not having puppy mills and not having the stores to be the ability to sell these animals right from puppy mills, you go through an adoption process. So a pet store could participate in aid within the adoption centers or nonprofit organizations by allowing people to come to a pet store and adopt an animal that came from an animal shelter or nonprofit organization. So we know the origin, we know where it came from, and they have to go through the adoption process that makes sure that this animal is going to a loving and careful home and meets all of the requirements. It also, I just think that it's a great opportunity for us to lead by example. There are legislation, and that's why I also wanted to take some time to review some state legislation. We passed in the state Senate, but this particular similar legislation stalled in the Assembly and has not yet come to fruition. I would like to see us lead by example, and so if this is something, animal abuse, whether it's in one facility, 10 facilities, animal abuse is animal abuse. I've said it before, and I want to put a stop to it. And so I intend to push forward in terms of leading by example. Right now in the state of New York, there are 7 other municipalities that have enacted laws, so we would be the 8th municipality to enact laws to lead by example in the state of New York. And so it's not my intention to sit back and to wait for the Assembly to do their work and see this through when we could lead by example. And I think that's important to us. Allow anybody else that, I don't want to be overpowering by any way, but I'm kind of passionate about it, and allow anybody else to have questions to speak about the topic.
And I'm going to agree that it's been sitting in the Assembly for 3 years, and I'm going to agree that we can move forward with it. We have home rule, and if the Assembly comes up with legislation that mirrors ours, that's no problem, or, if theirs is stronger than ours, that's no problem either. But I don't see the resolution for the public hearing, Ken.
It was drafted by, town attorney was in the prior work session. With me.
Well, I mean,
Yes,
I don't.
it was presented. I could reread it for you if you'd like. It was in our previous session.
No,
but-
I'm just asking if it's on to vote for the public hearing on Tuesday.
It can be added if the board is amenable and they want to put the resolution in, we certainly can add it.
Just add it, just say that
Sure.
you want to add it.
I'm all for, we can agree to add it to, I'd like to see it move forward to a public hearing. I think this is a great
Okay.
opportunity for us, again, leading by example and to stop any type of inhumane.
Go forward?
Yes.
So,
So
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead,
Catherine,
Frank. No, you go.
So I was away for the last work session, so I really am getting caught up to speed, but I do like what I see. Just in the purposes to promote animal welfare, encourage best practices, I mean, that's a common sense kind of approach, and I think it makes a whole lot of sense. I'm a dog lover and a dog owner myself.
I know.
And I've had my big bull mastiff here to town hall several times, but, I think these are really important steps, and I definitely would move forward with the public hearing on it.
How much is your dog weigh? I saw him this size, and I
He's
saw
up
him
to
4 months.
150 pounds.
And we also have our dog, right? The one that we're
Yes,
training here
yeah.
at Town Hall, and Sometimes you'll see him under here, and the
Yes,
employees
so
are helping
I'm in
training.
agreement for the
Yeah.
public hearing, yes.
Good.
And certainly I'm in agreement for moving forward with the public hearing. I don't actually understand why it was pulled in the first place. I think it could have
It was
moved
never,
forward.
it was never pulled. We had two members that were absent, and I asked, and I thought it's important to have discussions with them to be part of such a significant legislation, and to not do something within their absence. So Frank is here today. Tim, though home healing, I did speak to him at length, and I did not speak to him prior to last. So I thought it was important that everyone participate in this and everybody it's significant. I just wanted the entire board to be present within it.
Yes, and I also sent the state law around to the entire board, so we become well-informed. That's our job as legislators, not to make ad hoc decisions. You have to research and make good law. And as far as the home rule is concerned, let's look at marijuana. The state said you can smoke marijuana in New York State, we have to adopt it. The only thing that we changed, unfortunately, was where we can sell it and where it can be smoked. So the state can apply some of the regulations to the state. So anyway, let's move the discussion
Well,
forward.
and it was my understanding that we were all in favor of this, so just to reiterate, I am in favor of moving this forward, anxious to get it on. It'd be great if we could get it on for our next meeting next week. Thank you.
Yes, and that is Councilman Rothwell's.
That was my goal today. so
That's his
thank you for
decision,
supporting.
and he moved it forward, and thank you. We are going on. And Tim, if you're listening, or you're gonna watch at some time later on, we wish you lots of luck, and we miss you up here. It's good to have bodies to talk to, and town board members to chime in and bounce things, and move our town forward. So we hope you a speedy recovery. Next, I'm going to move to our third discussion item due to timing issues on some of the members and myself. I'm going to get out to the senior center after this discussion, but I have added the water, okay, concerning the water district. And here today, we're going to have Bayrod, Rothwell, Prudenti, and Mancini. Water's critical. We have to address our water issues. Apparently, recently, there's been some statements made that we can't develop in Riverhead, and there's been some fear put into the public. I've had to deal with it. We do have sufficient clean water in Riverhead. However, any new developments have to build their own infrastructure. And this is across all towns. If you're coming in, we're not gonna set you up, we're not gonna pay for your water, you're gonna put the pipelines in, and you're gonna pay for your own water. And so that, I just want to stress with the public, that is a fear factor that's been put forward by one individual, unfortunately, and that is not the case. And so now we are here, and we're gonna bring it out to, bring it up for discussion. So who wants to go first?
If I could, Supervisor, I just want to say also, we had talked about the potential of forming a committee on clean, safe drinking water.
That's
And I
correct.
think that doing our homework and talking to the different departments within here, I think we're really, our committee, what I was doing was trying to prepare for a presentation, and our town attorney pointed out, Ken, you're really creating a water forum, essentially. And so, as opposed to doing a committee and having monthly meetings, we're thinking more like of a quarterly water forum. And so I just wanted to kind of read an outline of what I was thinking and
Okay.
to see if my approach is in the right direction with other members of the board and supervisor. While the town, including the town board, community development agency, and water district, and continues to advocate for clean, safe drinking water to all residents, particularly south of east of EPCAL, seeks minimize loss and waste of water, and maximize efficient and effective development of the town's public water supply system, all to promote public health, safety, and welfare of our residents. Over the past several months, our residents have made it clear that we, as the governing body of the town and our water district, must communicate better to share the information with our residents. Initially, the town considered the creation of a committee. However, after comments or lack of public support for a committee, the town will host a water forum I'd like to see. The water forum would meet quarterly. The town would invite staff to provide updates on projects, grants, code changes, aims to increase awareness and understanding about the issues surrounding water and water usage and the infrastructure as well. In addition, members of the public would be invited to attend and invited to recommend topics for discussion. The format of the water forum formation shall be informal and designated to be informative and encourage open dialogue, discussion, and an exchange of ideas.
Okay, perfect.
So just one thing before we move on. The statement that this is a fear factor put out by one person. I actually called for a discussion of water. I also called for the town board and the planning board to meet together. And that is because our planning board in Riverhead sounded the alarm that they are concerned about moving forward with projects with the water issues that we're having. And yes, it's not that we have, and of course Mr. Mancini's here and he's the expert, but it is not that we don't have plentiful water. Our aquifer is plentiful. It's the infrastructure of getting the water to the projects. So I did bring that up. I did ask to put it on the agenda. I'm glad to see it's on the agenda today. I wasn't told until this morning, but it's a good thing. It's a crisis, and I'm glad that we're discussing it this morning.
Well, before we introduce staff, I would just like to say we are in the dog days of summer right now.
Yes.
So everybody should be conserving and cutting back on their usage. I know that, this is a stressful time for the Water District, and Frank Mancini, our in-house hydrogeologist, will give us all of his information, but we should all be working on cutting back in these tough times so there's enough for everybody.
Yeah, and I just want to add a statement on Catherine Ken. You asked me last week to put it up in front of the media, and you also got the agenda yesterday. And it comes out the night before, so it's up. Let's go, Mancini.
No,
What do you
hold
have for
on.
us?
This item was amended. This was amended this morning.
Because, okay.
I looked at the agenda, and actually, I asked for it at a town board meeting.
Okay, good.
At the last town
Okay.
board meeting, but the bottom line is,
That's it.
we're doing it
Great.
today, and that's what I want to see.
Okay, and that's what we all want to see. So, good morning, Frank.
morning.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank Frank for bringing up the water conservation right now, because it is a stressful time.
is, yeah.
We've had a lot of precipitation this summer, so it hasn't been as bad as last year, but we're probably doing 15 million gallons right now. But anytime this time of year we can conserve water, we should. And I also think this quarterly forum's a good idea. I think we're doing a lot of work that perhaps we don't communicate to the public effectively. And this will give us an opportunity for them to learn that, because recently the board's been really supportive of the Water District. It's not that we don't have issues they had taken 20 years to get into, but recently we're really working as hard as we can to get out of those issues and make sure we don't find ourselves in this predicament again.
Sure.
But do you guys have specific questions on what you want me to do?
Well, so can I just say?
Yeah.
Can I just
So-
add one question? Can you describe it was brought up by an individual recently that we are having problems with all kinds of DEC permits, and, I mean, it looked like we were doomed. And I just want you to clarify that for us.
Well,
So,
yeah, you
well-
want to go ahead, Dan?
yeah,
Okay,
I'm gonna,
thank you.
I'm gonna address it, but first I wanna say, I think the town board is actually united with respect to our water district and the things we must do going forward. I truly believe you're all unified in that. I'd also like to believe that it was the water district superintendent who, I don't want to say sounded the alarm. He asked planning and highlighted for them the need that projects moving forward must contribute to make certain that our district ratepayers do not pay the cost of the necessary infrastructure for a particular development.
That's right.
And that we maintain their supply, the ability to address down systems at certain times which could occur, the ability to address redundant fire events, am I right?
Yeah,
The issue with the permits, Supervisor, in part, yes, it's significant, but we, as a team, both legally and technically, will address and are always working to address that. What we've been doing, and, maybe we haven't updated the town board enough, but we do meet with our liaison, and he participates in these meetings. We are examining key money. When was the last time key money was up?
2006.
2006. So we've worked with H2M. We have new figures on the costs of equipment and materials. We also work with our financial administrator to get updated rates for employee time, because don't forget, every time we go out in the field, usually a lawyer looks at it, staff from the water district looks at it, and that's what those monies compensate for and reflect. So the board can anticipate bills in the middle of budget, but as soon as his schedule lets up a little, we'll finalize it with H2M. In addition, we, the councilman, liaison, water district superintendent, myself, Bill Rothar met with us, and H2M, we're actually going to be proposing, and we're working on a long-range project plan. That project plan would address anticipated infrastructure improvements in certain areas of the town. It will also address routine maintenance that's going to be required for our existing infrastructure. So right now, we're actually really getting into the meat of what we want that plan before we roll it out to all of you members of the town board.
Okay.
Yeah, that comprehensive plan, I've had H2M working on small little components. That's going to cover everything. And I think it's going to clarify some of the confusion. If I could be critical of the last 20 years, where the misalignment occurred, it would be the approval of development plans and not having them develop their own supply, which is the conventional approach to dealing with this. I didn't invent this idea. And see, the difference between key money sort of buys you into the co-op that is the Riverhead Water District. This is probably $100 million worth of infrastructure. What we're asking in addition to that is, if you need a certain amount of gallons, you have to pay to develop that.
That's right.
And that's sort of the change that's new, but it isn't at all a unique idea. It's one that's applied throughout Long Island that now we're going to use to make sure we don't bury ourselves and get ourselves in a position where we've got too much demand and not enough supply and storage to meet it.
And also to not have to put any excess burden on the ratepayers.
Yeah, well,
And that's the purpose.
so that would be part of the past problem, is that as the town tried to meet that demand with ratepayer money, they maintained a very low rate and sacrificed maintenance on our big infrastructure items like tanks. So we can't do that anymore. But our current, we're using the ratepayer money to recover from those ideas, and we've done studies like with the USGS and stuff that's going to give us all the tools necessary to use, whether it be ratepayer money, grant money, or private money to support development, to utilize those resources as efficiently as possible.
And you should describe, we're ahead of the curve on that.
Yeah, I think-
Utilizing.
That is, the agreement you guys had with the USGS was developed before my time, but I did have some insight to it because Ernesto called me. Ernesto used to work here as an engineer, and he developed that relationship. And he called me at my previous job, and I gave him some advice so that, because the USGS is a government agency, they develop data, but they cannot, they're going to provide us with a report that really defines the water resources of Riverhead. But they have such an extensive data review process that it takes years to get to. So that was something I learned at Suffolk County Water, in that we would pay for something, but we couldn't get the data soon enough to make a decision. So what we have now is a cooperative agreement where I get to see the data in sort of a raw format, and take action off of it. Of course, there's some risk there that perhaps the data during the review process is incorrect, but it's the best available data and it's really cutting-edge stuff, and that's what we're gonna use.
So Frank, correct me if I'm wrong with this statement. Any future building in Riverhead will need to put in their own infrastructure to not tax out taxpayers?
Yeah.
And it's commonly practiced across the whole United States, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this, a fear factor that is, and that's what I was concerned, because after these statements were made constantly, on the radio, on the media, and it would hear, and then you're saying, wait a minute, let's take a stop, and that's why it was good that you guys came in. It's not anything new. We're not reinventing the wheel. It's not rocket scientists to figure out that, you're coming in, you have a big development, you pay for it.
Yeah, historically,
Okay.
the town's always made you run your own pipe. So if you have 100 homes in an area and we do a district extension, which the board approves the boundaries of the district and capital expenditures, you would pay that loan off as a function of your district extension tax. Even a big extension, say like a building. What we're changing is that also the supply and that you need, or the storage that you need, now you've got to develop that, which is a conventional approach. That's the same thing our neighboring water suppliers do. Because the public, they don't benefit. If you want to build some 10-acre facility, the average ratepayer doesn't benefit from that. You benefit from that. So you've got to pay to help us develop that. And we've laid the foundation so that we can do that really efficiently for you.
And it's fair to say that Stan Carey, who works for the, what is it?
Massapequa.
He understands that
That's
both from
right.
a planning
Yes.
perspective and from a water use perspective.
Right.
Yes.
So I think that's why he
But,
was
but
right to
making
move
it seem
forward.
like we're running out of water and we can't build anymore, that's a disservice to the community.
Right.
And I just want to note that I have been approached, and the Suffolk County Water Authority wants to take over. They've tried in the last administration, and they're not going to do it. It's going to cost the taxpayers a tremendous amount of money. Since the beginning of the year, they've had two increased raises, but people forget, as I did my research, that if they take over, our residents are going to have to pay what's called a hydrant tax. And that tax, we have 1,600 hydrants. We are talking about maybe close to, depending on how many they are, $500,000, and who's gonna pay for that? The taxpayers. And I'm gonna continue to fight for our water district. They tried it in the last administration, they tried it in the one before that. Some people are supporting it here, and we're not gonna support that. And I hope that the board stands with me in this regard, that we're not gonna allow that. But anyway, that's an offshoot on it. You were gonna say something,
Yeah,
Councilman?
just so, to be very clear, I mean, there's a general understanding that always, any type of new industry or business always pays for their lines in, but you're also, to make it clear, you're asking them to contribute to the overall increase and betterment of the infrastructure of the town as a whole. So like,
Correct.
meaning that they may provide something towards, funds towards storage and upgrades within the town, right?
Required for their development.
Yeah, but
Required for
potentially
their
what they're
development.
gonna use, so if they
So what
gotta.
the law provides is that if you're proposing a project
Yep.
and the demand is, I'm so bad
Let's
with the
say
gallonage.
let's say 1 million gallons a day, because that's roughly the permitted capacity of one well.
Yeah, so if we were gonna, and help me with this, but let's say we need a new storage tank, and the storage tank holds 10 million gallons a day, and a new business needs 1 million gallons a day. So either A, they can build their own storage tank for their $1 million, or they can help the overall infrastructure and provide perhaps 10% for their
Correct.
1 million gallons towards a new tank that would hold 10 million gallons, that could eventually help the town overall as a whole with the water supply. Is that a fair,
Yes.
right, accurate?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
what's sometimes critical and difficult is to have the projects known and running in the same path, so we can put together, and our experts can put together those more global type projects. But answer to your question, absolutely. And Supervisor, I'm glad you brought up hydrants, is because what the water district is asking planning and planning board and town board to actually look at, the improvements actually sometimes do require hydrants. And,
Yeah,
right?
the addition or replacement of hydrants.
Right. So we're asking and advocating for moving forward that we take a hard look at all the impacts to our water district, its infrastructure, and our ratepayers.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I just did the math. 1,600 hydrants at $250 a hydrant is $400,000. That's what the taxpayers are going to have to absorb. And that's not including all the raises, and the quality of our water is going to change. They can direct water elsewhere. They can send it to the North Fork. They can send it out to Mid-Island. It's going to affect our quality, and we need to do everything that we can to preserve our water. And I will not, I will not tolerate it, and hopefully they lay off. But there's been attempts. There are some people supporting it, and I will not personally support it. But I think we're going to move on. Is that good?
No, we're not gonna move on. Saying that people are supporting Suffolk County Water Department taking over our water department is just complete false information. Certainly, I don't support that. Do you support that, Ken?
Absolutely not.
No,
Do
we
you
don't.
support that, Frank?
No way.
Do you support that? Well, then, do
Okay,
you?
would you, yeah, of course.
No, let me finish.
I do not support-
So
we
you're
got to keep-
stating that someone here supports
Captain,
that.
can we move
That is
on?
a false information. So just to go back a little bit also to the statement that we are spreading gloom and doom. Talking about reality and stating the facts is not spreading gloom and doom. That is being honest to the public and letting the public know what's going on. Isn't that our job? I think that's our job. And we are blessed to have Frank, who is such a phenomenal expert in water. He could talk about water for hours upon hours. And we also have Stan Carey, who is an expert in water. And I think that the fact that they both brought up a concern is very important. And I think the people of Riverhead deserve to know what's going on. So I am glad that this is coming up. I'm not interested in sugarcoating it, kicking it down the road, or putting it under the rug. This is something that we need to face on. This is a major issue for Riverhead. And as far as developers contributing, to help pay for the projects, I fully support that. I think that's what we need to do. In fact, I feel as a town, just in general, we need to constantly advocate for ourselves. And that's a situation where we will be advocating for ourselves as a town and protecting our taxpayers and the people who live in Riverhead. So Frank, just to be clear, I know that it's not a matter of the water in the aquifer. It's not that we're running out of water. So can you explain for the people of the town in simple terms what the real issue is and why there is a concern?
Well, because we're held to the standards, there's two regulators that regulate water. For health, it's the Suffolk County Department of Health and New York State Health Department. And there, we have no issues. We have challenges because of new rules that we're addressing with new treatment systems. We've gotten a lot of things through grants that help pay for that. The other regulator that we deal with is the DEC. They regulate how much water you can withdraw from the ground and who you can supply it to. Because we're a special district, that's something that I don't think people understand, in that while us and our neighbor do the exact same function, they're a public authority, and they're simply regulated differently. So they don't have to say, I've got enough water to provide this area, because their position is any parcel located in Suffolk that's not within a district is theirs. So they don't provide these. This is a very well orchestrated argument that's come across Riverhead, because these regulations simply don't apply to a public authority. It doesn't mean that we need to build up our supply and storage even for what we have now, because we can't be one well failure away from a significant problem when we're doing 20 million gallons a day. But those conditions only exist for the few days a year that we're doing that type of pumpage, and all the conservation work we're doing and the staggering of irrigation times has really helped us. But if we were on a 20-day drought with no rain, we would really be pushing the system to the point of near failure. Well, we have emergency interconnects both into and out of Riverhead, because our neighboring water supplier could experience the same thing.
That's
But
great.
We provided for them as they
Yeah.
provided for us.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
that's a long-standing throughout the state of New York.
Yeah.
You have potentially
It's a backup.
competing water providers providing backup. Because if you didn't do that, it truly would be absolutely irresponsible and.
Yeah, on a technical level, we work closely with the Water Authority, and I would never, their technical and engineering decisions are second to none. Stan and myself were developed there, and, that's how we learned the water business. As far as the agreements that we have, this, lack of a better term, adversarial relationship, is more related to the control of development and water and things like that, because there is this connection between water supply
Sure.
and development. So it would be a real tragedy for Riverhead, who spent so much time and money in preparing themselves to really address this, to lose that. But ultimately, that would be your decision as to whether you want to continue doing it or not. I would be into whatever you want to do.
Well, I think they
Yeah,
want
we're
to keep
in.
it.
We're in.
Tens of millions.
You're not going
I think they all
anywhere.
express, right?
Yeah, we're not giving it
No,
up.
I anticipate over the next 10 years, we're going to spend 20-something million of ratepayer money on our capital projects, and then all the additional money that lands to support development. This is going to be a significant amount of work.
Sure.
But none of the stuff we're doing is not something I haven't done before.
Or anyone else is doing.
No. I mean,
Everybody's
yeah.
just about in the same boat as we are.
Yeah, we're going to align ourselves. You'll see water districts and water suppliers doing the same thing, like ground storage tanks. The bang for the buck is indisputable. There, you can build a lot of water on the ground, and it's easy to maintain. We have the tank at Tuttle Hill Road, and my advice would be we do something like that somewhere else. It's more efficient to build a bigger tank than it is 10 small tanks. So on our end, we need to coordinate aligning this infrastructure with the development, not only paying for it, but it takes a long time to do these things. If we started a tank today, it would probably be 2 years before it went online. So balancing these things is going to be the challenge. And then, of course, on my end, I'm going to have to execute tens of millions of dollars of water infrastructure projects.
So
So,
Frank, the
can I-
DEC is saying, but the DEC believes we don't have the infrastructure to bring the water into EPCAL, and that's part of the issue, correct?
Yeah, but how much should we talk about this?
No,
Should we
that's
do
an
about this
EPCA water issue.
Yeah, so we can move on
I don't
from that.
know.
Can I just come full circle, though, because when I originally began the conversation, was it just about a water forum as well,
Yeah.
and getting into quarterly reports. So,
Yeah.
yes, you're talking about water supply and demand and the infrastructure, but equally as important as we need to talk about our Calverton and Manorville residents about clean
Absolutely.
drinking water. And so I just want to make sure that I would like to set up a work session with this forum and I just envision you being here, Frank, to discuss,
Yes.
along with Anne Marie.
And Dawn.
But I would,
And
and
Dawn,
Dawn, Dawn,
because-
talk about, grants and things like that. I would like to invite members of the RAB Association to come in and speak within this work session.
Kelly McClinchy.
Kelly McClinchy to come in and
Yes.
share how we're
Football
doing
Bureau.
and better ways of communicating with the residents of Manorville towards what is taking place. I'd like to get updates, if not present, perhaps letters or updates from our Congressman Zeldin's office as well as Senator Chuck Schumer's office. It's just a water forum that's really going to try to bring everybody up to speed towards where we're at and the direction we're going and how we can improve.
And I'm all for the water, I don't have a problem with the water forum, but I am happy that we're discussing it in a work session, and I think what needs to happen is regular updates in the work session where we bring Frank or Anne Marie, or we bring people in that are, and I also think it's a good idea to talk to Stan about it at some point. I still like the idea of having a meeting with the planning board and the town board to discuss this issue because it affects both boards. But Frank, we do have a significant amount of work that does need to be done,
Yeah,
correct?
yes, I don't want to, listen, this is not insurmountable, but for people who perhaps don't know a lot about water, the challenge in front of us may look intimidating and insurmountable, but I know how to fix the problems, and I know that whether we did it or another water supplier did it, the actions we would take would be the same. It's really does the town have the wherewithal to stick to its guns and do this?
And I agree with you, and I think always when there's a concern such as this, a starting point is to admitting that, yes, there is an issue. and then moving forward, addressing it, and that's what we need to do. And once again, I do like the idea of, certainly developers should be paying, especially with we're looking at this massive project. HK Ventures is a massive project.
But you're right,
Yeah.
100%. The issue and concern is, these new developments really must be tasked with paying for the creation or storage of the supply needed for their projects. And the ratepayers should not fund that. And, that's what we've
Yeah,
been
that's the essence of it, and that's where perhaps.
Can we ensure that that happens?
Well, we
So
can
we need to
because,
create
And
any
with HK
legis-
Ventures, excuse me, Anne Marie, I'm sorry, we're an involved agency with HK Ventures, so certainly, I think we should have a statement on the DEIS assessment of the water situation there.
well, so, to your point, the reason why we had been working with Stan Carey and we appeared at that planning board meeting was in fact
Yeah.
to highlight this and ask the planning board, when they were looking at projects, to take a hard look. Also, what we had discussed at that meeting was procedurally, the requirement for the map and plans. Why? Because the map and plans actually fully set forth, to your point, crystal clear what the issues are and the impact a potential development project has on our infrastructure, the need to create perhaps additional supply or storage. And so what we had discussed with the planning board was, moving forward, prior to the applicant's environmental impacts, accepting an environmental impact statement or DEIS, Water District's map and plan would be included because it gives the blueprint from the get-go. And
Well, that's the
as to
purpose.
HK Ventures, the good point was, our chairman of the planning board, Stan Carey, based upon that, because Frank had submitted the map and plan prior to the last planning board meeting or hearing, it was, to all members of the planning board, and Stan Carey had a significant number of questions, comments, and concerns, all related to the map and plan. I mean, he had others related to other aspects of the project.
Okay.
Well, when Frank came, there are water concerns, and he was promised he would be given the tools to do the work. So Frank, what would you want the town board to do? What are some of the specifics?
Well, I think we're doing what we're doing and fully supporting it is critical. I think the map and plan, like Anne Marie spoke of, that's something we should clarify too, because historically, we only asked for a map and plan when we were going to extend the district, because you require that document to go through that process. But actually, this was one of the last bits of advice that Dick Ehlers gave me, was that we would now apply map and plans to any large project, because like Anne Marie described, it's an engineering look at your situation and what you need, and then it gives us the opportunity to communicate in that plan what we need to support it. And as far as the leverage and how we stop it, what these folks need from the water district is called a water availability letter. And we used to give them out routinely without any fee, and not recognize the leverage behind that. So once you get that, you're off to the races with your subdivision, and I don't have any leverage over you anymore. Now, that's what I'm going to use as the tool to make sure this happens, and that's what the support I need is to not undermine that and understand that, this is a necessary evil. Somebody's gonna have to pay for this, and if you need it, you're gonna pay for it, because we're not going to the ratepayer for it like maybe in the past we would have tried to do. But that's it, and you guys have done a lot even before I came here. The agreement with the USGS, like I said, has really done so much work throughout Riverhead to show us where the water is, and, if we put a little bit more into that, we'll even get better at that. Pursuing parcels, we need to coordinate a little bit better than we had in the past about if we're preserving parcels, that it should like a Pine Barrens parcel I can access that as a water supplier, but an open space parcel, perhaps not. We should be able, because it's in the best interest of the town, if a parcel resides in an area of the aquifer that we determine to be sustainable for a well field, we should have coordinated efforts behind the scene to make sure that the water district does in fact have access to that parcel and perhaps
I know that
develop it.
we had this conversation, I feel like a few months back, and I believe Ken was there, we were talking about using these parcels. But the water availability letter, now, is that something that goes into planning, when the planning is working on a project?
It actually has to do more with the county, right? The
Yes.
county health department.
But do you work hand in hand with planning when they are looking at a big project and you're giving your feedback as to the
Yeah.
water supply available?
So I get to comment on that, and this was not I'm a technical person, so this was new to me. So the fact that, I know Stan on a professional level and on a personal level, so he's helped me tremendously, and Bergman's helped me too, kind of learn the process at which, what comments should I be making and when, and that we're coordinating better than we did in the past, perhaps.
Well, that was my question. So as a town, are we taking your advice that you're giving in our planning and using that and following up on that?
Well, we just started this, so I hope so. It's not, like in the future, with HK Ventures, as their DEIS, they had their own water supply analysis. We would have done that differently in hindsight, in that in the future, our map and plan will take the place of the document that they provided within the whatever that thing is, the draft environmental statement. We would have done that differently in hindsight, because this is a lot of new policy and a lot of new, what I would say, changes to the workflow, the path with which a project takes through the town from design to execution. So we're learning every step of the way, but we really work together. Anne Marie's been a tremendous help. I think having someone internally in the town sort of fight this fight with me has been critical to this. Stan, the three of us talk and coordinate all the time, and that's probably new.
And I'm going to say that's a great team. I do have to say that when you need something done, Anne Marie knows how to get it done. And certainly Stan is a great resource, and once again, I think it would be fabulous for us to sit down with planning. Any other recommendations or requests that you have?
Yes, ready? So you're very pleased that this town board
Did the rate increase?
did the rate
Yeah.
increase. What we're going to ask the town board to consider next is
Well, the key
doing
one.
an amendment to the key money, and again, I explained, we're working on that. Also, we're gonna ask the town board, we're still working with Councilman Bayrod, Bill Rothar, NH2M, on a proposed contract to get a long-term plan.
Okay.
And we want that.
Yeah, that's, I think, a long-term strategic plan for the water district is going to not only provide our path, but also, when developers have questions and stuff, it sort of documents, like, this is our plan. We're not deviating from it, and this is how we're going to address the problems that we
And
have.
Frank, I know that you spent a tremendous amount of time not only doing your job, but supervising your employees, and I know that you work very, very closely with Stan Carey. I know you work with Frank. I see you guys all,
Yeah.
and Anne Marie, I see you guys here all the time.
And Dawn.
And what are you meeting about
Dawn's
water? What are
great.
you meeting? It's a very complicated system. It's not easy. I'm glad you came on board. I know that you guys are doing a great job, and water is essential, and we know that we have to deal with Manorville, and I'm glad that Councilman Rothwell is taking the charge as the liaison. We're gonna move this forward, and I'm glad that, you came by today. And if there's any new developments or anything of substantial nature, maybe you might want to advise the Councilwoman Kent on it, and, keep us all in touch, send us emails. We'll be back on work sessions, and I just want to thank you again, because I know this was a short notice thing. I thought it went up on the agenda, it was forgotten to be put up, but you were notified yesterday to come, so we got it, we have it here, and I want to thank you for your efforts, and it looks like we're going in a great direction, and I think we're going in a great direction in a short period of time. There's a lot of stuff to be undone. There are new developments that happen. I don't mean actual water developments, but CDC regulations, and this is an ongoing, very complicated process, and I'm glad, Frank, you are part of our water guide.
Yeah, listen,
You're
I
such an
want to
asset,
say I'm the
thank you.
liaison, and I'm also one of the
Yeah.
Franks, but I am not the hydrogeologist that many people think I am.
So
I'm
thank
just the councilman.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
I thought it was Tim and you. Is it, are you just?
It's
I don't-
Frank.
It's
It's
Frank,
just
yeah, I knew you
Councilman
were.
Okay,
And
thank you.
I-
Any of you can reach out to me, and even the public. If anybody has
Absolutely.
questions, ask me. I'll do my best to answer.
And I have asked lots of water questions, and you've been very helpful. And I am very pleased that you're discussing a long-range strategy plan.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Thank you.
All right,
thank you so, so
much.
much.
Thank you both.
And the next,
We'll see you back at our first water forum meeting.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
We'll be fine. Thanks so much.
okay, our next item, we asked to put on the agenda to have our recreation superintendent or director to update us on improvements on all the parks, or discuss any concerns that you have. I know there's been some letters written as to certain parts of the park, and we need an update. And we're also going to talk about the EPCAL Trail. And I'm going to step out from this meeting. I'm going to have my deputy complete it for me. But Ray, can you send us an inventory of what has to be done, where we are, progress eventually?
report.
Okay, the report,
Thank you,
and
sir.
I'll be reading it thoroughly, and I'm gonna ask Devin to step up, and thank you, Ray, for coming today. And it's,
Thanks, bud.
who's on the calendar? It's Ray and who else?
We're gonna need Bill at some point, and
Oh,
Anne
Ralph
Marie.
and Prudenti. Oh, did she leave?
So,
Okay, so I'm gonna take, and we have Drew here, who's also very instrumental.
No color, I had a black and
I'm
white.
taking your seat, man.
You get one?
it's one of the things I'd like to say, Ray, just whether or not you have been advised, but one of the first programs that I took upon was Pedal Share when we first arrived here in Riverhead, and so I just want to congratulate our residents and our town, because in terms of the EPCAL Trail and the Pedal Share program, it is the #1 used location in all of Suffolk County. And so our
that's
residents
great.
are out
Good
and
to hear.
about, and they're riding the trail, and I think that's great news, and I was really excited to see that.
Yeah, I looked at it was very interesting that most of the bikes are being used at EPCAL. Of course, we know that's such a popular area.
Very much.
But I'd like to see the bikes used more in the downtown area at some point.
Yep.
And just,
And
I
it's-
actually had asked to put this on the agenda, put the EPCAL Trail and the maintenance of the EPCAL Trail on the agenda, so when we do reach that part of this, I'd ask that Drew be able to come to the table. Drew is here, and I think he's involved in that. I think Drew, as town engineer, should be at the table for this.
The Alternative
Drew, can
Transportation
you,
Committee has been working on that at great length
When
as well.
can you come up when we do the EPCAL Trail, please?
And I think we may want Bill as well, right, Bill?
Yeah, Bill,
Tribute
come
to
on
the-
down, you're the next contestant on,
Bill's had a busy couple. Why don't you guys just come up now?
With
Well,
the-
while they're coming up, I want to announce that the Stop the Violence basketball tournament is this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, and Dwayne Eliza, who organized the event, invited the town board and the supervisor to come at 1 o'clock on Saturday if they can, and they're gonna do like an opening ceremony.
I actually went by Saturday, there was another tournament there.
There was a youth tournament we
Yeah.
had there. Yeah.
It was younger kids. Of course, and I thought it was really cool. It's nice to be seeing this kind of thing going on in our town. I hope people come next weekend. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, no, it is, and the youth was at Stotsky Park and Horton Avenue, so it was a nice tournament that they had, and it was very successful, young kids, so good to see them all playing and getting up, and the basketball tournament this weekend's gonna be great. There's really some good teams, all professional ball players playing, the competition is great. so.
And it's so nice that we got the new scoreboard from Columbia Care, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it's 3 years old now, but they love it.
One of the things I just want to say is the Alternative Transportation Committee, Drew and I spoke probably over a month ago, more than that, in terms about getting the maintenance done on the EPCAL Trail. And it's something that that committee is particularly proud of, and that's our pride and jewel on the east end of Long Island. And so we did reach out to you, and you did have someone come in and take a look at the estimates and received approximately about $40,000 for estimates for doing maintenance on the trail. And in addition, I think they're going to be making some more significant, and so it might be more higher and possibly be higher than that. But I think because the Epcot Trail, as members of our committee said, it's the jewel that we've got here. During COVID especially, it's probably, the abundance of use has succeeded tremendously in terms of when gyms were closed down and recreation centers and places to gather, it was the outdoor environment, and it was the Epcot Trail that was there for everyone, and the usage was phenomenal. And so it's important for that committee, and I just want to make sure that they get recognition that they're working really hard, and this is something that they really want to maintain, protect, and keep for years to come. We've spoke to Dawn Thomas about, obviously, the key is funding here, and so I won't step on, I'll let Bill Rothart and so talk about it, but it may potentially qualify for the American Rescue Funds, where we're trying to facilitate. It is an outdoor environment and it would qualify under the COVID money as well. And it's something that we want to make sure that if this continues and we're still wearing masks, our outdoor environment, that trail is an awesome resource that we have. And so I'm hoping that we're get to move forward on the maintenance and the repairs to that trail. This is a key component to keeping what we got. I'll let you speak in terms of that.
Okay, so we started speaking about this back in March. And at that point in time, the All-Trans Committee was interested in sealing both the cracks on Line Road as well as the cracks on the remainder of the trail. At that point, I went out, looked at the trail myself a couple of times. I also had a few other people on my staff look at it, and the cracks that were dangerous or could be construed as dangerous, I really didn't see any. So I asked the All-Trans Committee to mark those out. Never received any response. Time went by, and in the last month or so, you and I spoke again.
Well, they did mark out where there's some holes and they were repaired. There was some patching that was done.
Yeah, but for the amount of work that they wanted, there was no markouts at all. We did receive a quote to crack seal Line Road and the remainder of the trail. That was $40,000. And then a month ago or so, you and I spoke again. The All-Trans Committee wanted a more permanent solution, and apparently we received a couple of notices saying that the trail was unsafe. At that point, I went to a different contractor because the contractor who does the seam seals does not do the patching, which is what we need for Line Road. All the cracks on Line Road need to be saw cut on both sides, taken down to either base material or concrete road, which is probably what it is since it's Grumman, and then patched again with top course.
Drew, are these the same crack? I went out one day with you and Ken, and we went out and looked at these. Is this the same area that you're talking about?
Line Road is
It was on Line Road.
probably the worst part. And then there are cracks for the rest of the trail, but that by far are the worst. But everyone, I had Ed Doyle out there from South Fork Paving. Gio's been out there a couple of times. Myself, Ken Testa, Rosemar Paving, and each and every one of them to the end said it's not an emergency situation.
I'm just wondering, well, I'm gonna let Ray
It
have
needs to be
this.
addressed, but it's not an emergency situation. But I'm waiting for a quote to have the patches applied on Line Road. Once that's done, we'll find out how much money we have. If we have money left over, then we can address the rest of the cracks on the trail. Rosemar will do that with crack sealing. They're not bad enough to have to patch them.
So I know these guys have other things, but at the end of the conversation, I would like to talk about where the funding will come from. You know, this is such a popular thing. Everyone loves the EPCAL trail, I think, and I don't, and this was not in the budget. I think that we need to consider where this is going to be in the budget moving forward. Certainly, you know, you're talking about the American Rescue money right now, but we are going to need to maintain the EPCAL trail moving forward, and it needs to be a budget item. So I would like to have that conversation at some point today. I know you guys have other stuff, but I think that's an important point to bring up. And that was actually why I asked to put it on this particular item on the agenda, to look at how the EPCAL trail maintenance was going to be funded.
I know that the committee wants increased cutting on the trail. And for us to do that, we've got to have another person. There's no doubt about it.
Drew, what do you mean by cutting? Cutting back the trees
Cutting the
and the
trail.
limbs?
To cut the trail on both sides of the trail
He's referring to the grass on each side of the trail.
Oh, mowing, okay.
takes 14 hours.
Okay, I thought you meant tree limbs and stuff that might be encroaching
Well,
on it.
that has to be done. That's done, but not at the same frequency as
Okay.
mowing.
Gotcha. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
So we need to think about how this is going to be funded to maintain the trail. Certainly, I don't know how many people use it, but it's very popular.
And at the same time, Sharpers Hill, we're gonna have the same problem. Is that one of the ones you're gonna talk about or no?
No, that's not on my list.
Okay, Ray, do you
It
wanna,
would- it
Ray, you
will
wanna
be.
get into your proposed,
Go ahead,
Thank you,
Ray.
Drew.
updates, your
Sure.
changes to your updates on your parks, and give us an idea of what's going on there?
Yeah, basically, this is the list that we presented earlier in the year, and it's broken down into 3 phases. As you see, left, middle, and right. And we had to reshuffle the deck several times.
Ray, let me just interrupt you. We just got this list now, so we're gonna have the office post it on the website for the
Okay.
public and for any members of the media. They can get a
I
copy
gave
of it
it
that
to
way.
them, yep.
Okay, great.
We had to reshuffle the deck a few times based on the needs, based on the company that's coming in to do this, the contractor, and then we had to work around the summer, because we do not like shutting down any facility in the middle of the summer. So, this is where we're at, and this is where we're going. So basically, on the left-hand side, you see 4 items. Those are our signs. We replaced well over 60 signs in the town and added, so a combination of replaced and added signs based on the change in laws, based on the Department of Health needed some signs in certain areas, and then some of the new signs that we put up. And a lot of replacement signs. People tear them down, they get spray painted, they get worn down. So it was time to redo all that. So that was the $20,000. That's still in process. The PO was completed a couple of months ago. Weedell has taken up that venture, and they are moving along. So they should be done within the 3rd week of August. So most of the signs are up. We just, a couple of big signs, one of them at Georgia Community Center, the entrance sign, which I know South Jamesport Civic Association has been emailing me every month. That is going to be done in the 3rd week of August. It's a brand-new sign, so that'll look nice there. The next item is the pickleball courts at Veterans Park. That is going to be done by Land Tech. That is a brand-new 4 courts, and it's going to be right at where the dog park is at EPCAL. So they're going to start that work in September, Land Tech, to start that and that shouldn't take too long to do. The playground at Iron Pier Beach, that is going in for the current one that is falling apart. That one is being shipped on September 1st, and we should have it up and running by mid-September, I would say, if everything goes well. There was a big delay in the shipping with this. Apparently, playgrounds are very popular now. We ordered it back, probably back in February, March. By the time we got the PO, it was a couple months, and then we had to get that. We ordered it, we ordered the colors, and then it's just back ordered.
Ray, what about removing the other one? Now, how long does that take? Like, once you get the new one in, can you just wait and remove the other one then?
We're
or-
gonna time it where when we know it's about a week out, we'll ask Drew and Building the Grounds to remove the old unit.
Newsflash, Drew.
No, we knew it was coming.
And then, at that time, as soon as they're done, I'm gonna have it scheduled with the contractor to put the new one in. So it should be seamless, should take. The next item that is currently in progress is the dog park, both dog parks. The water to the dog parks are being put in now. I think I spoke to Ken yesterday. He says that we're almost there. I think they finished Stotsky or close to it, and then they're on Vets next.
Yes.
Yay.
So that's where we're at currently, and then now we'll move over to phase two, and this is where I would need transfer of funds. The first thing we moved up the Bayberry basketball court, tennis court, and fence. Basically what's happening over there is the basketball court is in bad shape. There's a tree buckling underneath, and it's just worn down. It's in very bad shape. So again, Land Tech was our contractor. They're gonna come in and redo the entire court, and rip it up, put brand new surfacing in there, and then the top coating, so it's gonna look really good. The next thing is the tennis courts. We're gonna surface them with the tennis court surfacing, and the fences are being replaced over there too. The fences are just old and worn down, due to the fact that it's an issue now. We're starting to get to a point where it's very dangerous over there. We want to get Land Tech in first. They're coming in mid-September. We just have to get them the PO, and they're ready to go. They said it's about a 3 to 4 week job. It's one of the reasons we didn't want to shut down Bayberry in the summer. I don't think they'd be too happy with that, but
The
mid-September.
ladies are very, very excited to get new tennis courts. I was over there talking to them, and they, please, please, please.
Yeah, we've been talking to them for a while.
Ray, is that
Yes.
where we looked at, when we went out there and looked at it last year, I think it was, like the roots are coming up
Yep.
through the thing?
Yeah,
The
it's-
other issue, and Bayberry is such a beautiful park, actually, but the other thing about Bayberry, as I recall, there's a lot of trees around the outskirts, so are we getting those trimmed, or?
That's not on my list. We've never really had a request for trim the trees there, but we can, if that's something that you guys want to do.
Wasn't that one of the issues, especially in the back by the tennis court, as I recall? Dropping stuff onto the courts.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, we can get that. When they put the new stuff in, I'll see if they can
Aren't you
trim
glad
it,
you're
too.
here, Drew?
Yeah, I know.
But once we're done, that park's gonna look great. It really is. We've got a brand new playground in there within the last 3 years, then the brand new tennis court, brand new basketball court, brand new fencing. We put the handball court in there about 5 years ago. So that park, even though it still need work after that, with the parking lot and the pathways and all that other stuff, we're just doing what we can. The next item that, again, this is part of the second phase that we're gonna need some funds transferred with, that's why we're here. Stotsky Park Tennis Court and the Stotsky Park Basketball are all getting resurfaced. The tennis court, we're going to, we were gonna do that project before the summer started, but the problem was they are there's tiles on them. So the current tiles, before we can get an estimate or an accurate estimate, the tiles have to be pulled up. And you have to check the underneath surface and see if anything needs to be patched or fixed up. We did not want to do that because that would shut down the tennis court for, 3 weeks or so, even more. Land Tech did give us an original quote. That was to do the entire thing, and it was well over $100,000. It was just too much. Because they just need to be resurfaced. Everything else is good. So the basketball court, same thing. That's going to be resurfaced to that new surfacing that you see at Horton Avenue. South Jamesport, and I know if South Jamesport's watching it all, they are all over me on this one. The tennis courts needs to be resurfaced. Again, we were going to do that earlier, but the tiles have to be pulled, and it's a process, and I don't want to pull up the tiles in the middle of the summer for then the contractor to come in and assess the court, and then to come in and redo it,
So what time of year is best for that then?
We're looking to start in September, so September, this is the order, we're gonna go with Bayberry first, then you have the Veterans Park Pickleball Court, they're just gonna go one after the other, and hopefully they can get a couple contractors, like Land Tech has several teams out
It's a
there.
rainy season.
Yeah. The surfacing doesn't take long at all. It really is. Once the tiles are pulled up, and Ken Testa assessed the court a couple months ago, just, from his without lifting the tiles, just looking at all the areas, he said it looks in pretty good shape, so it doesn't look like we're gonna have to do a lot underneath. Then the fence replacement at South Jamesport. So South Jamesport's gonna get a facelift, they're gonna get the new tennis court surfacing, they're gonna get new fences over there. The playground at Vets Park, that's another thing that we're set to go in. We did not order it yet, because again, the funds have to be transferred for this. It'll be a nice, large playground that's gonna go in the middle of the park. That's part of what we're doing with that park, is we have the dog park there, we have the pickleball courts that are going in, the playground's supposed to go in, will go in on the other side. We assessed it, we have the rendition and everything, that's ready to go. We just have to send over a purchase order for that, and they'll get going on that as well. And that eventually we'll see basketball court, tennis court, so that area is gonna be very, very, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great for everybody that's over there. That's a very crowded area, Veterans Park. The walking path is very, very popular. The dog park is very, very popular. And then we have tournaments and league games going on the ball fields all the time, and the Tomcats as well. So it's a very popular spot. At some point, we're gonna have to discuss putting another parking lot in, because that parking lot is full. Playground, and then down, these are additional projects we're gonna do if the money is there. There's a small playground gonna go in at Statsky Park, that's going in where the picnic area is.
Wait a minute, is that Larry Williams Park?
That's the Larry Williams project, yeah.
Larry Williams asked for 15 years, I think, to
Yep.
put a playground there for younger children, so that when people are having picnics and things, that the kids are close by, correct? That was Larry's
That's correct,
thing.
yeah. The problem is, yeah, the playground's in the middle of the park, so the current plan is 5 to 12-year-olds, and you have to literally leave the picnic area to go with your
Right.
children to the park. So this will allow people to continue to stay in their picnic area while.
And Ray, Larry Williams is gonna be so happy.
Yeah, we're gonna bring him up here for that ceremony. And the rest is again, if the money is there, these are kind of like the third priorities. We definitely need the new picnic tables all over the place, garbage cans, park benches, tables. We need shade structures at Veterans Park and Statsky Park. That's all going over the dugouts, especially at Veterans Park. There is no shade over there. And this time of the year is horrible for the players, because they're in the dugout and there's no shade over. Tomcat players had to deal with that. So that's a big requested item. All the other parks and other municipalities have them done, so I want to get them done here. And swings at Wading River Beach, the Wading River bathroom needs to be redone, even though that's not that old. Bayberry toilets, gates.
What's wrong with that?
That was the report that came, that's probably not gonna happen for a little bit, but they just, a lot of complaints on that unit. So that's where, this is this year's projects, and what we're asking for is additional funds. This is something that was planned out already, but just we're asking the town board to transfer the funds so I can continue with the projects. And I think Bill can probably take it with the funding from here.
Okay, so we had talked about this a little while back and had some projections. You guys have spreadsheets on where we were getting
You probably have
the
to
money
be
from?
louder.
Okay.
You have to be louder, I think. Oh, my junk.
So we've discussed this at a previous work session, and we had a schedule of where this was being funded from. There's three sources. The first one is park and rec fees, which as we finish a project, sometimes it comes on the budget, we put money back in there and reuse those funds for other projects. The second was a capital reserve fund, where we had $125,000. And the last one is a solar project that we are potentially going to allocate money towards these projects. I think we estimated at the time $350,000. So we're in phase two, basically, not only in spending, but the funds that we're using, phase two, which is the capital project funds. And this project originally needed about $50,000 from there, now we're up to $56,000. So it'll affect the two projects behind it. And then also all of the projects in phase three, which is waiting on the solar. So this doesn't, even though the price had gone up more than that, we had other projects that closed that we used park and rec fees from. So really only using an additional $6,000 or so for this project, Bayberry basketball court, tennis, and fence. The schedule that Ray has shows you the estimated cost on the other ones. Obviously, As we get quotes for those and they change up or down, then we just need to continue to be mindful of what pot of money is left and what the priority is as we go forward.
What is the timing on the money from the solar? I
Is it a
mean,
couple of months?
Well, so
That's the next Terra project?
Correct. The town board on December 15th of 2020 approved the community benefit agreement from Nextera. Pursuant to that agreement, the first payment of the total would be $750,000 due within 5 days of final site plan approval. I believe, to the best of my knowledge, there is one single issue left to be addressed before it would be submitted by the planning board for approval. And I anticipate that's probably 30 to 45 days away, potentially.
But it's imminent.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. And then, as Councilman Rothwell pointed out, a project, a recreational project, particularly one that is outside, outdoors, was utilized during COVID, has the potential to continue to be utilized in such a COVID situation. Let's say we had to continue social distancing, and that the use increased or potentially impacted by COVID, and quite honestly, the additional use, we weren't doing maintenance at that time. Everybody was out there using it, could qualify for American Rescue Funds.
Well, the reason I asked about the timing was, and it seems to be perfect for Ray in his scheduling. Would you agree, Ray? I think it looks like a lot of these projects are going to be starting after the summer anyway, so 30 to 45 days may just be perfect timing as it unfolds, right?
Yeah, actually, it works out great.
Yeah.
And Ray tracks that routinely, right?
I'm all over Anne Marie and
Yeah,
Bill.
constantly. And then to one of the points or questions that the councilwoman raised, I think is a really good one. And I will share that not that long ago, Councilman Bayrod and I were talking about the whole issue regarding, so I want to highlight two things. The park and rec fees are significant and important. These are the monies that Ray's identifying and using for some of these projects. So always, I would ask the board and the planning board and planning staff to be mindful of the park and rec fees and make the appropriate study and findings with respect to those in planning reports, staff reports.
And Anne Marie, that's supposed to go in the first plan that we receive, correct?
It really should. I mean, it should be an early evaluation.
Right.
When you have a project that comes in and before you and you look at it, obviously you know those residential units, those residents should have open space, recreation space. And as long as your, quote, planning study describes the park or a park proximate and potential amenities related to it, that's the purpose of park and rec fees.
Because when I brought it up the other day, I was told it was done later, but we're saying it's better to do it early on. And just so the public knows, I'll reiterate, even though they probably know, the park and rec fees are paid. I think it's $3,000 per unit that is paid by a project for park and rec fees. Obviously, if you're living in an apartment, it's good for the town to have a park nearby, and that's really important that is collected.
So then the second point was kind of Drew's point regarding staffing. So Councilman Bayrod and I, not too long ago, were talking about park and recreation fees. And we were talking about maybe the town board would want to consider working with their state representatives in the Senate and Assembly level to amend the state statute regarding park and recreation fees to allow for not simply capital projects, because right now under the law, you can only use it for capital projects. You can't use it for maintenance, and you can't use it for staffing. And the more parks we create, the greater the maintenance costs and the greater the staffing requirements.
And this was born out of a lot of the open space parks that are starting to come out of Open
Exactly.
Space Committee, and then poor Drew is stuck with
Yeah.
how do
And
we
that's-
maintain these places?
And that's Drew's point this morning. The EPCAL trail is very popular, it needs to be maintained, but it requires more staffing.
And
So
we're getting Sharpers Hill very soon.
Yeah.
So can the NextEra money be utilized
It's gonna be
for that, the
constant
maintenance?
It should be a budget item.
Yes, NextEra money may be utilized for maintenance, but, you know, for the NextEra project, for the category health and welfare, the funding amount is $350,000. It is a significant amount of money, I know, so I don't want to, but it isn't when you're talking about the number of projects that we have. It's a lot, and it doesn't,
But on the meantime, we can utilize the state funding to start projects and the community benefit fund like NextEra to maintain them. Would be
Yes,
a
but-
simplistic approach.
but not staffing. In case you were asking me
Yeah.
about staffing, I don't believe the category would allow for staffing, and staffing would be a reoccurring and constant expense over time. So that's why I think, maybe, and if you'd like, the councilman and I could put forth our draft we were going back and forth about for you to consider, and then maybe as a board, you decide that, yes, we should advocate our state representatives for something like that. I don't know.
I agree with
It's
you
just a thought.
100%.
So Ray, most imminently, Bill, the conversations upcoming here for the next town board meeting, really revolving around, I guess, items highlighted in 2, correct?
So there are no funds, that's one of the issues, I think that Anne Marie was alluding to. So up at EPCAL, this separate trail and any other parks or anything else that has to be done up there, we don't have funding in that separate fund to cover this. We have roughly $20,000 in repairs and maintenance up at EPCAL. It doesn't make it through the year, okay? We also have ongoing costs for litigation or legal fees and stuff like that until it's actually sold. So the revenue that's created up there barely covers those fees, okay? For this particular project, we would have to transfer money from the general fund to EPCAL in order to fund this $40,000 or $50,000.
But to be clear, that's talking about the trail repair, right?
That's
Okay.
the trail, right?
Right.
But then going forward, if we do this and we have additional costs in order to maintain that, I'm assuming most of it is seasonal. Maybe to start off, we look at a seasonal person there to do that, so that we can at least get that additional work done, and it's only seasonal. The bulk of the work is seasonal there until, obviously, we're in a position here or point here where we don't have the contract done and stuff like that, so we have to continue to get to that point. I don't know that the $20,000 we put in there for repairs and maintenance will cover any of that at this point. We just have to look forward to where we're going with the sale.
I
And
think
Bill,
we
where are you
create a
saying-
line item, I think every year, we add something to it. Drew, when these repairs are done, this trail should be set for a couple of years, right? I mean, it's not, we're not gonna,
No.
do you think
It
it's
needs
gonna be
regular
$50,000 per year to do something like this magnitude, or is this every 3-5 years?
Okay, so what I've heard, regarding mowing the grass up at the trail, the committee would like it done weekly.
They didn't discuss weekly, but monthly, like a
Yeah.
couple times, because right now we're waiting, our next cut, you said, is scheduled in September. So the reason why we're asking about cutting the grass on either side of EPCAL Trail was because of the tick factor, and that if the grass is a foot tall, it's more likely the tick is going to be able to capture a runner or a walker going by, cyclists and so forth, as opposed if it's cut shorter, then we're hoping that there's a little wider of a safety range. That's what the Alternative Transportation Committee was looking for, was to trim it and not wait. I think right now you do it 3 times or twice a year?
4 times a year.
4 times a year, okay, so we're looking for a little more monthly.
Right, and we would most certainly need another person at least seasonally for that.
So if you do the seasonal person, Bill, where would that line fall?
Well, what we do is if that person is specifically for EPCAL, we would try and take that money out of EPCAL. If we're gonna be transferring money from the general fund for now, in the short term, then we can take it out of the general fund because there's not funds in there. Again, once property is sold, we can reimburse the general fund in the future for any expenses that we incur now, whether it's repairs and so forth. So it's really a matter of that seasonal person, how much time is being spent there. Is Drew gonna need that person town-wide because of time spent up at EPCAL, whether it's mowing or anything else, or specifically just for that trail, or for that area, I should say.
But shouldn't the maintenance of the EPCAL trail be an ongoing item?
Yes. So if he's saying that maintenance is gonna be an ongoing item, to what extent? I mean, we're doing a, patching of the trail at this point. How often does that have to be done? If the maintenance is more regular, is it less than what we're doing now? How old is the trail? And as Councilman said, because of the activity on the trail, maybe that's part of the reasons why the maintenance has come up sooner than we expected. I mean, it's really an engineering question of how often that's going to be, and really it's just projections based on, traffic on the trail itself.
But we need maintenance at each and every park. That's a fact of life.
The one thing I know people always seem surprised, there's 42 parks in the town. That's a lot, and they've been neglected for a long time now, and we're really trying to push. No, not neglected in that way. No, in fairness to you, he's the best. P&G is the best, they really are. They do everything we ask them to do, and they do it in a timely fashion. I'm just talking about neglected as far as
I know you are, I'm just kidding.
structural improvements, Drew, structural improvements. And then we've added a bunch of parks, including a huge, EPCAL park and a bike trail. So we're still operating almost under the same.
With the same amount of people.
Yeah,
We are.
yeah. So
No, the Veterans Park is such a beautiful park. It's really a gem for our town. And just to go back, you were mentioning having shade things. One of the issues, which we talk about in the Recreation Advisory with the Tomcats, that's such a cool ball field over there, is that they have to play during the day. They can never play at
It's
night because
unfortunate,
we
yeah.
don't have lights. And it would be more helpful if we had the lights and they were playing at night when it was cooler.
no, that's what I want, the lights. Been
We
asking for
only
that for
need,
years.
$1 million for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Just a drop
just a
in the
little
bucket,
under.
just $1 million.
But it'll go a long way. We'll bring a lot of revenue.
So Bill, you're comfortable with the mechanics, I guess, of, you and Ray have worked out how this items number 2 are gonna get funded?
Yes.
Moving money to cover all that? We're good with all that? Okay.
I did want to mention that I know the committee is also interested in making the first 3 miles of the trail, which is the original trail that went in 2008, I think. That's only 8 feet. The remaining 6 miles is 10 feet, which is what we've done recently. The committee is interested in, they would have to mill it down or probably grind it in place and then repave it to 10 feet wide. And that would require, well, it's a lot of work. They would also have to cut back another 2 feet into the trees on either side, and that's DEP.
Are they talking
DEC
about widening
permit.
it then in the areas that aren't the 10 feet you're talking about?
The first 3 miles.
That seems big.
I think even if we, not the whole trail, but on some of the turns, like when you go around the Grumman Memorial Park, some of those turns that are pretty narrow, and they're 90-degree turns, so like in a cyclist perspective, some of them, if you've got a runner walker in there, sometimes it's hard to maneuver around that. So even if it's not widening the whole 3 miles, can we break it up to make that area, those 2 90-degree turns are pretty rough?
Absolutely, we could, replace sections of the trail. As far as widening, just widening, that won't work because the seams will.
I think it needs more, it's a 90-degree turn. I think they would like to see more of a 45, kind of, as you're cutting it. Just from a cycling perspective, when somebody is running and somebody walking on the trail or whatever, it's generally that takes the cyclist to stop.
Yeah, but I think one thing that people lose sight of is it's not supposed to be a fast
Speed track.
trail.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
There are pedestrians on it, there are bicyclists on it. They have to understand that they should not be going 20, 25 miles an hour on it. Because you could have an accident, hit someone, then you'll really have a problem.
I can't do that past mile 5 anyway. I slow down fast. So, yes, but got it.
Okay.
Thanks for the update, that was great.
So before everybody disbands, we have Dan McCormick in the room. He's here early, so maybe we want to just jump to the last item.
While Dan's coming up, I just want to ask Ray,
I think maybe you guys want to hang
Ray
out
and
like
Drew,
that.
if you guys could stay 1 minute. I don't know about the other board members, but I'm getting a lot of calls about garbage at the beaches, particularly Holt's Landing, Iron Pier, and Roanoke Avenue.
Yeah?
And talking, even people have been sending me pictures and like fish hooks in the sand and concerns about that. So I would think that there's an increase of people using these. Do you know what's going on or what's the issue or how we can
Okay, so
work on this?
we check Holt's Landing, once a week. And we're still checking it once a week. And our guys have not seen any problems at the collection points.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I've received phone calls about that beach
At
and
the-
Iron
on the-
Pier and Roanoke, at the end of Roanoke Avenue.
The beach or where the cans are, there's a big difference.
Because I get the calls in the beginning, Drew and I spoke, and I haven't had a call since we spoke at the beginning of the year.
We haven't either.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to bring it up. I actually did get some calls this week even.
Well, which one, in particular?
This week about Holt's Landing.
Okay. All right, well, I'll send guys up there, we'll take a look, but as far as I
And
do-
also someone reached out to me about people fishing in the swimming area.
Well, that can't happen.
Right.
When are they doing that? During the-
that was a
it wouldn't
couple
be during
days
the day
ago.
when the lifeguards are there.
Where was that?
We just did fire.
That was at Holt's Landing, so.
Oh, then that's not, Holt's Landing, it's not a beach, it's not a
Yeah.
public beach there. So,
They can pretty much fish anywhere they want.
yeah.
Okay, all right, thank
That's a
you.
constant issue though, I'm telling you right now, because we have to go over there.
So Dan, you're here to talk about the 2022 hunting lottery, right?
Yes, thank
You
you.
need us?
Yes, gentlemen, thank you so much if you could stay here. So, as we all know, the town of Riverhead has a robust hunting program. We have two aspects of that hunting program. We have a bow hunting season and we have a shotgun hunting season. It involves 3 Riverhead properties, most notably Epcal, as well as Sound Avenue and Middle Road properties as well. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation has set the 21-22 hunting season for Suffolk County and Riverhead to commence October 1st regarding bow hunting. Traditionally, the Bow Hunting Committee has started that first week in October for hunting at all sites, that being the 10 sectors that we have at Epcal, as well as the Middle Road and Sound Avenue properties. The 10 sectors at Epcal necessarily are in close proximity to not only Line Road, but obviously the walking trail as well. Specifically, Line Road encompasses sectors 4, 5, 8, and 8A, and the the walking trail encompasses all 10 sectors. I'm waiting for feedback from the hunting committee as to when they wish to commence this year. I presume the town board once again wants to have a hunting season for both bow and for shotgun, and so I'm waiting for input back from the committee on that point. But with respect to the proposed projects involving Line Road and the walking trail, do we have any time frame by which you believe, let's start with Line Road first, the Line Road improvement project will be completed?
I honestly have no idea, and I'll tell you why. We're waiting for an estimate back to patch Line Road today, the estimate today or tomorrow. I'm expecting that estimate to be above and beyond the monies that we have readily available. If that happens, then we've got to find that money, and then the work has to be done. That's why I don't know.
Okay. And do I take it to mean that there's a priority to get that work done in the fall season of '21?
Like, now.
Okay. So it's very possible it will impact at least the start of the hunting season in October. Would that be fair and accurate to say?
I would hope that we would be done by then, Dan.
Okay. The reason I say it, of course, is we have a logistical concern, right? If we schedule the lottery and we set the dates, I at least would like the comfort level to know that we're setting it at a time frame by which Line Road won't be impacted. And the follow-up is, will Line Road be closed during the actual improvement project?
Okay, so a section of Line Road will be closed, which virtually closes the bike trail because it completes the circle, right? Line
Understood, you
Road.
must necessarily outlet to the Line Road
It's
area.
only, it's not even a quarter of a mile, but it's still Line Road and it's still part of the complete circle.
Okay,
So that'll be closed for a day, maybe two,
okay.
let's say 2 days. But keep in mind that even when Line Road's done, if we can find money, we need to crack seal the rest of the trail. So the trail itself, when that happens, that will be closed.
The entire 9-mile circuit.
The entire 9-mile circuit, but again, we don't know if we're gonna be able to find the money for that.
Okay.
How close are these sectors to the trail itself? Because
It's right in,
I'm afraid
right?
of people getting hit with a
Right,
bow
so,
and arrow there.
so,
Yeah.
well, so by way of past practice and town board resolution, in the interest of compromise, the town board, recognizing the interest of both the hunting community as well as the pedestrian/bicyclist/dog walking community, kept the trail open and has kept the trail open during the bow hunting season only. And then for the shotgun hunting season, the entire trail and Line Road has been closed to the public during that shotgun hunting season.
Which is January?
That is correct,
That's why we shut it
Councilman.
down,
So
yeah.
we follow the DEC's
Yeah.
regs. The DEC tells the town of Riverhead when we can have our seasons. Shotgun is only in January for Suffolk County, which obviously includes Riverhead as well.
And that typically works out well because people aren't using it in January, meaning the pedestrian trail because it's cold out or.
Just the crazy people.
People do try
I-
to.
I-
The
But,
diehards.
no, but I will say though, Frank, I mean, I use it year round and it's crowded in January. It's,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah?
there's no
I
question
agree.
about it, it is used.
Okay.
I
So I
get at
think we
the
have to
dog
look
park
at it
and
as
I see
balance.
lots of people showing up trying to.
I've seen
go out
Rebel
there.
runners always run it year
Yeah.
round. and-
Yeah.
And I can say, because I go out there frequently myself, both with regard to the inspections for hunting as well as recreational purposes, because of COVID last year, we had an enormous amount of folks who obviously wanted to be in the outdoors
That's accurate, yeah.
and without a mask, right? So that trail and Line Road was inundated with people during the winter season, as well as our beaches, right? So it's incredible. I think I went to the beach more in the winter last year than I did in the summer. So I think a lot of people had that same
Are there
perspective.
restrictions on the ammunition that they can use in there?
So for bow hunting in Suffolk County,
That
they
means
may
the
not use a
shotgun.
crossbow. They can only use a traditional bow.
Okay.
Shotguns are a different thing, and obviously we close it, the town board closes it to the public at large during the entire shotgun
So
season in
there could
January.
be people firing slugs in there, and the trails are packed.
No, during the shotgun season,
Shotgun
Shotgun
the
season, it
public
closes
is
in
not
January.
permitted on the trails or on
Well, we
Line
put
Road.
signs
still
everywhere,
on the
people
trail.
still go on
People
it, yeah.
do still go there,
Yeah.
we've had this discussion.
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
So
we
Dan,
can only
how
put up
many-
so many signs, but
and-
that's not gonna
Right.
work.
Interest of
Yeah,
balance,
like a
like
big-
how many permits are we given, like, and so here's what I'm gonna, and I'll let you answer the question, but we got a couple thousand people using the trail on a weekly basis. How many permits are we having for the shotgun season where you would tend to close the trail for, and how
So-
long?
Based on past practice, we generally run approximately 40 to 50 folks for our bow hunting season, and many of our bow hunters are also shotgun hunters. So for the shotgun season, which is generally more popular than the bow hunting, because we have more shotgun hunters, we're running roughly 50 to 60 or so for that particular group in January.
And is that a month long, or how long is the whole shotgun season? Starting January 1st, you're thinking of?
So, yes, so what happens is, we have bow, just to reiterate, we have bow from October 1st by DEC regulation through late January. Remember, of course, we have 3 properties, right? So I'll focus solely on EPCAL.
Yeah.
Generally, what happens is, we have bow hunting from October 1st to late December. For example, last year, the board authorized it through December 27th. EPCAL closes down on December 27th to everyone, including anyone using the trail. We then set up EPCAL regarding the shotgun hunting season, which includes the installation of additional signage to warn the public that the trail and line is now closed to the public at large completely with regard to the shotgun hunting season, which generally runs that first week in January through roughly January 31st.
I'd be curious to know how many people are utilizing the trail, that would utilize the trail in January. And so my initial, and only initial thoughts, not decision-making, but as if we're closing the trail during the month of January and we're going to prevent 1,000 people from using the trail to allow 50 to hunt on it, I don't know if that's a balance.
Well, there's also a benefit to the hunting and culling the
Yeah.
herd, which is very vital,
benefit.
especially
Okay.
in that area.
That's correct.
So with that, with 50 people hunting, is that one take, like one deer per person, or is it multiple, or how many actually are we
No,
cultivating
not a
during the
hunter.
month?
So to answer that question, my understanding with the DEC rules and regulations is, in addition to your hunting license, Councilman, you also need to purchase what is known as a game tag. Because of the enormous deer population and the overpopulation, quite frankly, of deer on Long Island, the DEC has become more liberal with those tags, and you can buy, I believe, as many as you want, but you cannot take a deer unless you have a tag purchased for that particular deer. So you can get multiple deer as a hunter as long as you purchase those additional tags.
But we don't know how many we're removing when we cultivate the herd, so to speak?
The
on a
DEC
yearly
would have that
basis?
information, because under the DEC regs, each hunter must actually notify the DEC when they take a deer. The DEC then compiles all those stats. They crunch numbers, and then they make an evaluation as to whether or not the population is currently overpopulated or it's not, and then they address their regulations accordingly, both regard to the hunting season and the number of deer that you may take, including obviously does and bucks, which traditionally in the past years, they wouldn't allow you to take doe, right, only bucks, but now because of the overpopulation, you may also take does as well at this particular point.
So Dan, you work pretty closely with this every year. What is your recommendation?
Well, based in part and quite frankly, not knowing a specific time frame by which we believe these projects will be completed. And as we know in other areas of the town with regard to services, we have 2 issues. We have encountered labor issues, and we've encountered component and equipment supply side issues. So I think prudence dictates that at least for the affected hunting sectors concerning Line Road, we at least delay that hunting season to November 1st, subject to modification. So if those projects are done earlier, of course, we then can open up those additional sectors for hunting when those projects are done. Obviously, I'm strongly recommending we not engage in hunting when we, A, have our contractors out there, and B, when the public's out there, because now we've got an inordinate number of people in an area where we also have hunting. And that, most importantly, we need to avoid here.
So rather than bow opening on October 1st, it would open November 1st in your suggestion?
Correct,
Okay.
as to those affected hunting sectors.
Just certain spots you're talking about.
That's
not-
correct.
Not the entire town.
Right.
We could still open up October 1st for Sound Avenue as well as Middle Road, because those are not affected at all. And I think this really should be subject to additional development with these gentlemen in terms of, obviously, the vendors' input going forward. I'm still waiting for input from the hunting committee as well as the season as to its start date. Based on what we discussed today, I will bring that back to the committee. I will speak to them and get their input as well. And I think, the next week or so, I will fill in and come back with the developments at that particular point as we hone in the date to do that. I think
Great.
that's the best course of
Yeah,
action.
keep you up to date.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Then
is
we
there a way
have to
to
close.
speak to the DEC to find out, like, how crucial it is for us to cultivate I heard on the number of deer
All the
that's
spooky
in there.
walk now.
Okay,
Take
so
your chances.
that's a good question,
Like-
Councilman. So for edification,
God.
this program is purely voluntary. The DEC certainly doesn't require us to do this. This was initiated as a additional benefit to the residents and property owners of Riverhead as an additional outside activity. And it's been a very robust program over the 10 years that we've done it. And it has served that particular community, quite frankly, very, very well.
Dan, quick question, just so we're on the same page. The signs that go in to close the trail, does that taken care of by the hunting committee? Or do you need help from our department too?
Actually, it's a collaborative effort between myself, the hunting committee, the highway department, through
Okay,
Gio's
so you don't
office,
need
as
our
well as
department. Okay.
the dedicated efforts of Joe and his staff as well.
Okay, so if you need anything, I guess, from us, let me know. You can order signs for it as well.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
All right,
Thank
good.
you very much.
All right,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I got one last thing about, since we're talking about veterans and EPCAP, what about bathrooms?
As far as putting them up, give me the money, we'll put them up.
I mean, we, at
We
some
still have porta potties down
we
there, yeah.
need bathrooms out there. I mean, it's a really well-used park.
We have porta potties, there's, 4 to 6 over by the ball fields, there's 1 at the dog park, and I think we have 1 more over there. We could put more porta potties out if you want, but we
At
do
some
need that
point-
bathroom hookup.
At some point, yeah, because we have the bathrooms over there by the Tomcat, where the Tomcats.
No,
are.
those are porta potties. We need,
That,
it's
there's that
designed to have a
structure there?
bathroom.
Yeah, I thought it was designed to have them.
Yeah, but
It
we were
is.
waiting for the hookup, they didn't ever hook it up, right?
Money, no.
Yeah, it's gonna cost $1 million to hook it up to,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
the sewer district.
All
So
right,
that
well,
was
it's
All
all
right, you
about-
guys, thank you.
That's
You're-
it.
All right.
We need to do that sometime.
Chief, I think you're up. You've been so patient. We appreciate your patience, Chief, yes.
Did somebody wake him up?
Yeah. Thank you for being so patient, Chief, we appreciate it. Way to take one for the team.
Don't worry, this should just take about an hour or so.
Perfect.
got it.
So the July report.
Is it lunchtime?
Sort of
Oh,
like
my goodness.
stormwater management.
Wow. Okay, July monthly report. Everyone's got a copy?
Yes, sir.
I think we're right about where we should be. We've rebounded nicely from COVID numbers, so we're back to, I think where we should be, 2019 numbers. We did take a little dip in criminal incidents last month, albeit only 11 down, so everything looks to be pretty much in order.
Some things are up, it looks like.
Yeah, I looked at
Motor
the,
vehicle,
I did look at that, so that's very close to the 2019 number, so it's really not that far off. And it was the same last month, I think, right? Or close, 202 last month.
and why would arraignments that?
Yeah, that's something we've captured different since bail reform. So we're kind of capturing the people that are kept overnight to see the judge in the morning.
Okay.
So if you look, you see 33 arrests.
Mhm.
Out of those, 28 were kept to see the judge in the morning.
So you
Five-
kept,
five were
you
released.
did keep them over, okay.
Okay. So nothing else that jumps out at you, Chief?
Nothing else. Everyone's been getting the press releases, so everyone's up to,
Yes.
the officers have been doing a great job.
Yeah, that carjacking thing
Yep.
was,
So that was an arrest we made in that, so that was good news on that, so.
Good policing work.
And he was,
drug trafficking.
yeah, he went to Mappa Hospital to be evaluated, so.
Oh, a little scary for a 10-year-old.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Thank God they got out of the car.
Okay. Anybody else? Comments? We're good?
We're good.
Thought you said it was gonna be an hour.
Thank
It
you.
was worth the wait, Chief.
Sorry.
It was worth the wait.
Anything else you want to talk about?
All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. All right, so our last item for today, which is matters surrounding an update on formation of marijuana committee and legislation. That would be Councilman Hubbard and Rothwell. Obviously, Councilman Hubbard is out, so Ken, we'll turn it over to you.
Well, something which is gonna go into, certainly our code revisions, but obviously we know now that I I was not supportive of it, I'll say that, but the town did approve to have marijuana to be legally sold in the town and to have consumption places within the town. So, what I think we need to discuss about moving forward is specifically time and place, location, how it's gonna come about. So I was helping in the legal department, Emery was helping to write up a resolution to basically, I think we need great town insight to this. And one of my thoughts was to have, we have 10 hamlets in the town. And I would like to be able to reach out to our civic associations within each hamlet. And I think that perhaps each civic association can appoint someone on their behalf to attend a roundtable discussion. So Aquabog, Bating Hollow, Calverton, Jamesport, Laurel, Manorville, Northville, Riverhead, South Jamesport, Wading River could each have somebody at the table to give insight, recommendations, concerns. I think also within the committee, we need to have somebody from our police department, a representative. I would like to have the CAP, Community Awareness Program, at the table as well. And I'd like to see the school superintendent have a representative from the school to be present as well. And potentially, because of the high amount of apartments and occupancy, maybe somebody from the bid district as well. And I think there should be a roundtable forum and discussion towards when and where these consumption places, where they'll be permitted and where they're not going to be. And I just think that I would like to begin that discussion so that we can put proper legislation in place. And I'll let Anne Marie elaborate more on it if you can help me.
Yeah, so I fully anticipate that the town board will and does desire to put time, place, and manner restrictions and saturation limits and identify other concerns in legislation, the adoption of a local law for that. And we all know that, and we've heard, people have very strong opinions for or against. I think the councilman's idea of a committee could be a good one, because at least there might be some ideas, issues, or concerns that there is a large consensus on. Others, I'm sure you're going to, as town board, struggle with, but perhaps that'll give you some guidance going forward in your considerations as to what you actually put forth in a local law.
So this is a town board decision. What you're doing is having an advisory group, a mix of people within the community to discuss it and then make recommendations to us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not me, but the councilman
Yes,
is
because I
recommending
think,
that.
there's, you yourself, I think, said early on when we were talking about, where it could be placed, and you thought, oh, maybe up at EPCAL, I believe, right? And so I think, where would you see it fit? And I would think that there should be a representative from Calverton that might say, not in my backyard, not here, I think someplace else, and you might find that throughout the town. You may find the opposite. They might say, we welcome it here in our facility, in our area, and within our town. I don't know, but I think if you're gonna designate where it's going to be sold, I think you should have a representative from that local civic, associations have a place at the table to say, yes, we support it, or no, we don't.
Well, I mean, I'm always glad to hear from the public, but at the end of the day, we're elected to this position and we are charged with making the decision.
Yeah. But
So if this committee does go forward, I would certainly want to be involved in the selection of some of the members. And I am disappointed, and hopefully you'll add someone, that there is not a representative from the downtown committee.
I said
We
bid.
have, did I miss
I
that?
said the
He
bid.
verbally said it.
Okay, sorry, Ken.
I did
We
this
did
as a quick
already,
draft for you
yeah,
guys.
we did, and because I think you actually knew, we did already start having this discussion with the downtown committee, because there's discussion as to whether put it downtown or not,
And I
in
think,
dispensaries,
cafes. Optimistically, I think there's a lot of time, place, and manner restrictions that these civic groups or leaders from representatives could be helpful. It doesn't even have to be as to location. It could be that they bring and give you a report that they're unified in, 1,000 feet from any school, playground, daycare, those type of things, because the law actually, there's a provision in the law like 500 feet. Well, the committee may come forth with a recommendation and say, we want no less than 1,000 feet. And those are things that you as a town board might readily embrace. And you've gotten that feedback, and there isn't a lot of controversy as to make it 1,000 feet from a school or playground or something like that, or.
You look at a Polish town area in terms of where the high school is and the junior high school is, and that encompasses, when you go in a different direction, that's a large substantial area, going right over to Roanoke and all the way down into Pulaski
Right.
Street in the town. So, I think that they should have a say in whether or not they feel it fits the parameters of their community.
And once again, I do ask if I could, I'd love to be involved in this, who goes on the committee. I want to make sure that the community at large is represented.
That's
Since
the
this-
goal would be to send a letter to each civic association in each committee and ask them to specify, have a representative at the table for them. I think that's a very fair and appropriate way, so that we know that everyone is represented at whole, that we don't select one or two people that say, oh, let's move it all to one side of the town, or the other side of the town, the balance.
So I think everybody's in agreement with that approach, Councilman. I know the supervisor is, she obviously had to leave, but she is absolutely supportive of actually what Councilwoman Kent is discussing, along with you, which is including everybody.
Yep.
And your suggestion of including somebody from each of the hamlets
Yep.
really does that perfectly, also together with representative, hopefully from CAP and from maybe PD and the school district and the bid, as you mentioned. So
Yes.
I think it's,
So I think the only thing we need clarification on is, I don't think the councilman was thinking of him putting forth a recommendation of a name, and instead you were going to do like a canvas list to the civic groups and organizations and say, you provide us the name.
I want the Wading River Civic Association to receive a letter, and I want them to say that this particular individual is available, and we would love to see this individual at the table.
And I prefer that. I prefer the names to come from the group, as you're stating, rather than having a committee put together, which sometimes I see that and I don't always like it. So I think that approach is much better.
good. So does that need to be modified? Does this need to be modified, you think, Anne Marie, to reflect that, or are we comfortable
No,
with this?
no, I
Okay.
just have to, I did this as a draft, I have to clean it up a little, and now that I know that the town board is supportive, I'll put it in a final form and in minute tracks, and I'll rely on the councilman and town board coordinator to do that quote. I'm calling it a canvas letter, but,
Okay,
I want
To
to
the
send
civics.
an invitation for them to join,
Yeah.
send a representative.
great.
But at the end of the day, we have to make the decision.
right. Actually, I guess I should hold the resolution until we have the names, because then I would put the names in.
Yes.
That would be better.
Yeah.
I prefer that.
Okay, great.
All right, great.
But everybody's in agreement to go ahead and send a letter out, right, to begin at
Yes.
least the formation by requesting each particular hamlet
Yes.
civic association. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our discussion items. We only have one item on for executive session, which is matters surrounding the change in the status of an employee. So with that said, we'll go ahead and ask for a motion to enter into exec.
I think
We
you
have
gotta
to do
read the
resolutions.
resolutions.
Oh, you're so right.
Sorry.
Good thought. Guess I was getting a little ahead of myself. Wishful thinking.
Not too long of a list, though.
Okay, no, it's not bad today. All right, good, we ready?
Yes.
Everybody has it pulled up? So resolution number 1, approve special event, chapter 255 application for East End Rowing Institute Snowflake Regatta. Resolution number 2, approve special event, chapter 255 application, the Long Island Garlic Festival, including September 18th and 19th. Number 3, approves the fireworks permit application for Baiting Hollow Club, Saturday, August 21st, 2021. And of course, if anybody, the board has any comments, feel free to stop me, okay?
Yep.
Resolution number 4, approves a leave of absence request. Resolution number 5, authorize the supervisor to execute agreement with Riverhead Youth Sports, Inc. for their referee umpire services for the Town of Riverhead Police Athletic League football program for 2021 calendar year. Number 6, ratifies and accepts the resignation of a part-time police officer. Number 7, authorizes funding application to New York State for Downtown Revitalization Initiative Round 5. Number 8, authorizes the execution of a proposal for environmental and safety investigation of unsafe structure at 168 Creek Road, Wading River. Number 9, authorizes town clerk to publish and post bid for Dowflag Extra 83 to 87% calcium chloride or equal. Number 10, publish and post bid for removal of household hazardous waste. Number 11, appoints seasonal beach personnel to the Recreation Department. Number 12, authorizes town clerk to publish and post bid for police uniform items. Number 13, appoints member to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
And, yeah, on number 13, I would like to have this removed from the packet. Nothing against this person in any way. I'm sure they're good. I think this should be opened up to the public. This is a paid position. This is a board in town that represents the whole town. And I think that we should put it out to the community and allow people to submit their name for this, interested parties to submit their name for this. Just as a matter of procedure, I think this is more, of a progressive way to handle this. I think just submitting one name is sort of an outdated way of approaching things. This is a paid position, and I think other people should have an opportunity.
You did submit a name as well, so there's more
Right,
than one name
but-
submitted.
But I think we should open it up. I think that procedurally, and as a matter of transparency, if we're saying, we should open it up and allow interested parties to send their name in. It is paid.
Okay. Take that under advisement. And resolution number
Can
14.
I ask the other council people what they think? Frank?
I like I just looked at it now, but I like the name. I actually know him from the farm community, and I think he'd make a great candidate, or great ZBA board member.
Well, I don't have anything against the person in any way at all, and I do want to stress that. But don't you think it should be something that, the public should have an opportunity for as a matter of transparency and, inclusion?
I like this guy.
I
He's good.
I did speak to him, I went over his resume, I spoke to him at length, I felt comfortable. And I know you submitted another resume that I looked over as well, so I'm comfortable with this decision.
But we never had a final discussion on this, and I don't know that, these people were interviewed, and I think it should be opened up to the public. I
Okay.
think that's the right way, I think that's, better for our community.
Okay. So the last resolution in the packet here, resolution number 14, awards bid for map of county trails, road improvements. So it's a short list of resolutions today that,
Can I just, though, Bob, is it possible to then, if we were all in agreement, to go ahead and add a 15th resolution for the pet legislation to request a public hearing?
yeah, so we're going to move that one over, and then I think a couple of the, Bill has the budget transfer ones related to what Ray and Drew just discussed as well. Those are ready to go too, since the board is in agreement on that.
Yeah,
So-
so just to make the public
Yep, so
aware, right?
we'll move those over as well.
Yeah, and I am in agreement on moving that forward. I also want to ask, I did request that we have a discussion at a work session about the allocation of the CDBG funds and how the American Rescue Fund would be used. I did ask for that to be added to a work session
Yeah,
agenda.
and
Was that
Councilwoman, it
because-
is indeed going to be on for next week.
Dawn is away.
We wanted
So that
Dawn to be
was-
here. The
Right,
supervisor, I think, announced that this morning at the beginning of work session, that Dawn is out of town for a wedding.
right.
And,
And that was my question.
Yep, so it's
So-
absolutely going to be on the docket for next
Sorry.
week.
So it will be on,
For
then
next
it
week.
will be on for next week.
That's correct.
All right, good.
Yep, so just to rehash that, it will be on for next week, as the supervisor said earlier, when Dawn can be in attendance, just because that makes sense for her to be there, because she's kind of running that portion of it. All right, so we're all set.
I think Dawn should be
If I can have a motion to enter into exec session to discuss just that one item, matter surrounding the change in status of an employee.
Make that motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? So moved. Thank you, everyone.